Hey, my name's Jared. I'm an audio engineer here in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been working with a church called Zeal here in Nashville on their audio systems. And today I just want to talk about building out a broadcast template in Pro Tools if you're trying to get something set up for a broadcast mix that's separate than just sending your front of house board. There's so many different ways to do this. One way that I recommend is, and that we've been doing, is coming out Dante out of your board. So today I've got it's like a virtual sound check. So we'll just act like these tracks are going to be coming from the board. And that's how I'm going to be getting my audio. But I'm coming out of the board Dante, and then I do Dante Virtual Soundcard for our Pro Tools interface, and that's how I'm getting everything in. So we'll just kind of look at how I set this up. So I'm just going to hide these tracks since we know they're coming from the board, and this is how this is just my vocal here, but this is how I'd be coming into Pro Tools. So let's just start building it out. Okay, I need 14 mono, 8 stereo. So I'm going to create a new track. I want 14 mono aux. Now we do aux inputs because audio inputs, you got to press the input, and that's just like another thing. I just want to pass audio through. So I'm going to do aux inputs, and then I'm going to create another track, and this is going to be, let's say, 8 stereos, and I want them to be aux as well. Perfect. I always like to color code my tracks properly, so we're going to do that here. I know that these are going to be my drums. So on our inputs, I've already gone through and titled these, and I'll show you how to do that. This way I can just search. Well, one thing, I try to mimic the board and my input list one-to-one. So it's just easy to track things down. When you have like volunteers and stuff, it just makes it easier that everything is one-to-one. So I can just ask my front of house guy, hey, I'm not getting kicked down channel 1, or any questions that need to be answered, it's quickly answered. So in my title on the track, I write my input and then the name of my channel, and this will be mirrored up here. And when I set, let's say I'm setting this to a different bus, to retitle this, go bus on your interface, that's how you would be bringing it in from your Dante Virtual Soundcard. I'm doing buses because we're doing the virtual sound check, but you just right click your input and go rename, and then I'm going to go my input and then the name of the channel, and that's how you're retitling these. So a little bit of work up front, but I kind of did that already here. So we're just going to get all this stuff routed. And then titled. And then it's also really, I love using this search function on Pro Tools because it just makes it so much faster. And I've got some tracks going on. I've got keys 1 and 2, and then my electric and my rooms. Mic 2, 3, mic 4. I always like my vocals to be at the end, my rooms to be there, my tracks to be before my rooms. So let's go through and title these things. This is 2, now this is 3, 4, 5. 9. This one is sitting at 28. I'll explain that. It's, again, with Pro Tools, you can only have stereo tracks as odd then even numbers. So because 10 is an even number on my bass DI. Normally I'd want this to be right next to it, but I can't. Then my stereos after that would be all off. So this is just the end of the chain. Like my last is 27 over here, and then I'm just putting the bass tracks over here as that. Kind of confusing there. It throws it off, but just got to trust the system. This is keys 1, 17, 18. Keys 1, 19, 20. Keys 2, 21, 2. Guitar 1. 12. Some percussion tracks. 15, 14. Keys tracks. 15, 16. This is my back vocal tracks. And your input list might look different than this. This is just an example. Rooms 1. Do room 1 because sometimes we add room mics for when we're tracking live. I'll add like extra channels there for my room mics because I like to have a lot of room mics just to catch more of the crowd. All right, you don't have to adopt my color coding, but it just makes, again, easier to find things. And when you have like a consistent system, everything can be found much easier when you're in a big session looking for stuff and you know that their keys are always orange. And then my bass is always red and my drums are always purple. Cool, now we should be passing audio. On this, when I'm creating, when I want to start sending this stuff, there's many ways to do that in Pro Tools, but I like to just select everything. I'm pressing Shift Option on the output, and then I'll go New Track, and then it's automatically going to create a stereo aux. I'm going to call this my mix bus. And I like doing it this way too, because not only will it name my track for me here, it also names my bus. We should be passing signal now, and I don't have to do anything here as far as input level or anything else like that. The minute the live band starts playing and everything's passed right, we should be passing audio. So that's great. And then continuing down this road, I do like to, this is just to be getting signal in. I do like continuing, I do like top-down mixing, so I do like making buses for like my drums all and my vocals all and stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And all of that will feed my mix bus. So I'm going to go here. I'm holding down Shift Option on this, New Track. This I do want to be stereo. I'm going to call it my vocals all. I'm going to put this, let me rearrange here. I'm going to call this my drums all, holding Shift Option, New Track. Move this down here. Even though it's just these two tracks and they're mono, I still do it to a stereo bus, bass, all, and I call all of them all. So again, when I'm looking at it, I can just see it. There's some method to my madness here. Keys, all. Same thing on this, even though it's just one guitar. Usually we have two guitars, but on this particular Sunday we only had one. I'm gonna go guitars all. This will be my tracks. Tracks all. This will be my rooms all. Again, if I'm incorporating more rooms, that's why I just have an all bus. And then my alls have a specific color. And then I want to select all these and I want to tell them to go to my mix bus. So I'm at Shift Option and then I can type mix bus. And now everything's right in my mix bus. We'll play it again and make sure we're getting there. Cool. Now it's further routing I do here. I do like all of my kicks to have a kick bus. And then that'll go to drums. This way I individually EQ my kick in mic and my kick out mic to kind of give me what I want. And then I have an overall fader for my kick level. And I can also EQ and compress those as a whole. And it's going to be the same on my snare. That's gonna be the same on my toms. Now I gotta tell these to go to my drum bus. And then these, again, different color, so I just know what I'm looking for. Now, another thing I need is I need effects. So I personally like to blend reverbs and blend effects to kind of give me the ultimate sound I'm looking for, so I don't just like try to rely on one vocal reverb. I kind of do a slap delay, a plate reverb, and maybe a long like vibey reverb, and then I can like blend those and just have different colors to paint with. So I'm going to create a plate bus, a slap bus, a hall bus. Let's see, I want a drum room bus, and then I need an effects bus that all these can go to. So on my sends, because I know I'm going from here, I'm going to go new track. That's a stereo. I'm going to call this plate verb. And then I'm going to create another one. I'm going to call it hall verb. Create another one. Call this my slap. And then, what did I say? We want a drum room. So I'm gonna go here, drum room. Yes. Put all these down here. Get them a color going. And then we want to send all of these to an FX all. Let's get this down here. We like it green. And let's get this to my mix bus. Boom. Maybe a couple parallel drum buses. Let's call this drum parallel. Let's put it right. Sometimes I wish Pro Tools could just read my mind. Yeah. Drum parallel. Let's get this going to the mix bus. I do like snare verb, snare room. Let's call this snare plate. Let's call this snare parallel. Cool. These are all going to go to my FX all. And then, of course, they have to be a different color. This needs to go mix bus. And then these, because they're my effects channels, go here. All right, now we're cooking. The next thing I like to do, so we've got my routing. So, you know, it's like my kicks are going to this bus, and then this bus is going to my drums all. So if I play it, let me get to somewhere where drums are happening, maybe around in here. Maybe too far.
Bring on the waves, my eyes are fixed on the one who saves. You've been faithful. I'm so grateful how good you.
Yep, so everything's going correctly here. I love that.
Bring on the waves, my eyes are fixed on the one who saves.
So now what you can do, there's a couple different ways to do this, but you don't have gain control, right? That's at your front of house. Now they should be gain staging properly, but I will you can put a trim in Pro Tools. Sometimes for me, I like to do, if you've got the plugins, I like to do like some sort of like preamp emulation. And then this way, when you're going, I have gain control.
Bring on the waves, my eyes
I can go through and I can set my gains. So I'll put this, you can just option drag this to every single channel. And what I like to do when I'm gain staging in here is I do like to try to keep my faders around 0, just because you see a bunch of people talk about when your faders are lower, like the resolution isn't as high, so like a tiny move is like bigger than if you're sitting at 0 and do a tiny move, you're actually actually getting that. So I trim based on that. Now I don't want to be clipping anything, so I still need good gain staging practices in there, but I do like to gain stage to where my faders can still stay around 0. The next thing I'll do is I'll go through here and I will select the track, like I'm going to create VCAs. So I'll go through and I'll select all of the tracks that I want to be like on my drums VCA. And I'm going to go command group and I'm going to call it, I want these out of there. And then what I'll do is I'll go create a new track and a VCA. We're going to call this keys VCA. I want a guitars VCA. I want a tracks VCA. I want a vocals all. And I want my vocal effects. And then I want band all. So this is going to be all my tracks, all my keys, my drums. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 7 VCAs. So this is going to be my drums. Okay. This is going to be my keys. It's going to be my guitars. It's going to be my tracks. It's going to be my vocals. Now I'm going to deselect all of the groups over here because I still want to have individual control over everything. But this band and my vocal level, that's going to be extremely helpful when I'm mixing live. These are just kind of I like my balances and I just want to globally pull them down.
Bring on the way. My eyes are fixed on the one who says you've been faithful, and I'm so faithful.
You're like, okay, why wouldn't I pull all of these down when I want to do that? Well, this is like, I can just like slowly fade the band out with one fader. This, I got to grab a bunch of faders, but with one, it's just like on a board using DCAs. This way I can just like fade the band. If I'm working on the vocals, I can mute the band. I can, my effects, I have one fader after I get my blend I like. I want more effects, I want less effects, depending like it's a down moment, or I can ride my effects globally here. And same thing, especially if you start introducing like a fader bank and stuff. This way I can occupy my fader bank with that and maybe keep one fader to something that I select with my mouse. But it just makes my workflow when I'm mixing live a lot easier. And then again, of course, I mimic my color coding here because it just helps my eyes. I know what I'm looking for and it's easy to find. And VCAs, you notice all this is blank. There's no plugins you can do. There's no sends. It keeps everything the way it is. it just brings an overall level down. And then like when pastor is talking or something, I can mute the band and just make sure, and then I know nothing is going to come through. Like some computer with the tracks rig or something might just decide to start playing something or whatever, but this way I know it's muted, I know it's not going there. And you notice my rooms aren't feeding that, because I want my rooms to be free of anything, because they're capturing my ambiance, so they're pretty much going to stay where they're at. Oh, let's talk about tuning. So then if we want to set up live tuning, how do we do different keys? Typically we're playing in a bunch of different keys, so we use Waves Tune, because again it just comes with the plugin bundle and it's affordable to just do like a Waves plugin bundle. Set this one. An easy way to do this is Control, Option, Command all at the same time, and then press this button right here, and it just makes every parameter programmable on this. Oops, that's not what I wanted. And boom. So then I can go in here and let me find this track here. I know that we are in B on this song, and how we do it, we just, every key's major. Even if it's a minor song, we just do the relative major, so it's just easy. So I can just leave my tuning set at major, and I can go in here. Now what I want to do is I want to group these so that every change happens on all of them. So I don't want it to follow my global. I'm going to go attributes. This is my final plugin in the chain. We'll call this Vox Tuning 1. Now a couple things I've learned the hard way is I would recommend doing this in the circle of fifths. Normally, I made the mistake one time of just going like B, chromatically up, C, C sharp, D, E flat, you know. The problem is sometimes you might accidentally press play on your keyboard and then it starts going through, and if you don't catch it, you know, the chromatically C and D flat are as far away from each other as you can get, so it'll sound really bad. If you do the circle of fifths, you might be accidentally playing, but at least like you're in relative keys at that point, and maybe you have a better chance of catching it instead of it just being putting your singers way out. It's a horrible mistake. We've all done it. It's terrible. So I'm going to set a marker. Let me back up so I'm going to just click anywhere random, and I'm going to press enter on my number pad. This pulls up my markers location. I'm going to title it the key that I want. On this marker here, I'm going to go absolute, because I'm going to be changing tempos from a delay and stuff, and I don't want my keys where my automation is happening to change. Another mistake I made and learned the hard way. So you want this on absolute. I'm going to call this B. I'm going to drop down this right here. I'm going to pull up my waves, and I'm going to go scale root. So here I'm going to go a little bit before, so I know if I go here, it's B. And then I can go just click over here somewhere. We'll call this E if I'm just going about the circle of fifths. Again, I want this to be absolute. I'm going to go OK. Now, just a little bit before this here, I'm going to go and I'm going to drop this to E. So now on my number pad, there's like a shortcut. I can go like period, 2, period. That takes me to B on my number pad, or I can press Command 5 on my number pad. It pulls this thing up right here. And now I can just click on this and I'm in a different key. And that should be controlling all of these. So if I'm in, see, I'm in E, now I'm in B. In E, now I'm in B. And it should have done it to all of them. E, B, boom. Yeah, that's just like a really easy way to program your tuning. I don't need these to be grouped. They should still switch keys together. I just group them so that I can just do one automation lane instead of having to go and automate every single one of them. I just do one like that, and we're off to the races. This song is an original by Zeal called So Good. Pretty awesome, but that's what you've been hearing. And yeah, then I'll go through and I'll I'll start mixing on these. With your template builds, I can load up the plugins I want to use. So on that's my drum room, but on my plate, on my haul, I kind of like doing H delay, just because, like, especially in CCM, I really like really long, really wet verbs. So I can filter this out. I can put this on that. Maybe my feedback's a little bit higher, and then I can run that into my haul. Let's say something like that. Filter these out. And then another cool trick is in Pro Tools, because I have delays going and stuff, I can edit my tempo pretty easily. So let's
It's on the one who says, "You've been faithful, and I'm so grateful. How good you are, how good you've been, how good you're gonna be."
So my tempo is crazy right now, but if I press Command 1 on my number pad, you want to make sure that this MIDI controls is highlighted, but then I can just double click on this and then just tap my tempo on with the T on your keyboard. So as I'm playing,
It's on the one who says, "You've been faithful, and
press enter. Beware when those delays are changing, but here we go.
Yes, Jesus.
Come on, now lift it up. There will never be a moment you won't make a way. Never be a love that breaks through every chain. Never be enough. There is just one answer. Jesus. There will never be a moment you won't make a way. Never be a love that never be another.
And yeah, now my delays synced up and I don't have to worry about them being out of time. Yeah, some other suggestions on your live stream. I certainly use a lot of plugins, but I try to be thoughtful about which ones I'm using. Like on my basic EQs, I try to stick, with some stock EQs just for computing power. You want to make sure you have a good, reliable system, and you'll kind of find your breaking point. And if you're using all these fancy plugins just because you can, A, your delay is going to go up, so syncing your video is going to be harder, and B, it's just more taxing on your system. So I do try to be thoughtful about where I use my good plugins. My mix bus will obviously have some like good plugins on it and stuff like that. But if I can, just like clean up EQ and stuff, I can absolutely just use a stock EQ. But yeah, if you have any questions about this, just let me know. I'm going to be doing more videos on like further mixing this and everything else like that. But this is just kind of the start of my mix template and how I go about it from there. But let me know if you have any questions.